moderated by Aman, will delve deep into questions like how to make your organizations inclusive across generations and help you reimagine workplace norms through the lens of values, behaviors, and expectations. I now invite Aman Bhaiya, Vice President and Head of Strategy, SBI Foundation, Malavika Pavamani, Strategic Partnership Lead, Pravah, Girish Balachandran, Founder and Managing Director on Purpose, Anvita Viswanathan, Assistant Manager, Karo, Sambhav. I invite all speakers to please come on stage and all delegates to please be seated for the session to begin. I request all delegates to please be seated for the session to begin. Not confused, but just setting the context. So please be seated and the session begins.
Hello. Hello, Girish. Hello.
Hello.
Girish. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm at Starbucks.
Why are you at Starbucks? It's a Monday morning. We are at 9 for a meeting at 9:30. You know, Anvita will come and ask us for documents and things and papers. And why are you at Starbucks?
Because I need to get my vibe on.
I'm sorry, I didn't reveal myself fully. Yeah, sorry, I sort of got lost in some reels. What? Come again?
I'm getting my vibe on for Monday morning.
Okay, can you get me some coffee also because my vibe is not on at all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good morning,
Come soon.
Malavika.
Come soon. She's here. Hello, she's
I
here.
hope the presentation's ready. I hope everything is ready. We have our donor meeting in 30 minutes.
It's ready.
Yeah, so where's the file? Where's
On
the presentation?
the shared drive.
No. Where's the Like, I asked you for a physical copy.
You didn't ask me for a physical
I asked you for a
Anvita,
physical
you didn't
copy.
ask me for a physical
Malavika,
copy.
how many times have I
I'll
to
show
tell
you
you
the
this?
WhatsApp message. I'll
My
show you the
God,
WhatsApp
I can't
message.
rely on you for
said,
anything.
I need the files on Monday morning. Malavika, ensure it's done. I said,
Where
yes,
is
I'll
it?
get it done.
So,
it's
getting
on the can I open the shared drive?
I don't want a shared drive and all. Where are the files? I want them in my hand.
I knew this would
I
happen.
can't rely
so
on
I
you for
also sent it
anything.
on your WhatsApp.
try to-
And I also got Girish to get you a hard copy.
That's not
hard
what I
copy.
want.
Hard
I
copy.
want, yeah,
Hard
where is Girish then?
Girish is coming. He's coming.
Hi, Malavika. I got you this amazing turmeric flavored chai latte with extra foam. And I
Girish.
asked them for 2 pipes of
Hi,
crushed dreams.
Girish.
What?
I'm sorry, do you understand this?
He's trying to vibe with you.
I don't want vibe and all. Where are the files? Where is my presentation?
Here's your file.
Okay, this is empty.
You want me to kill trees?
I want you to give me the file that I will show to the funder so I can get the money for your Starbucks coffee.
You told me I will do purposeful work with you.
The purposeful
Now
work
you're
cannot happen
asking me
without
to
the
kill
money.
the trees.
Girish, how many times do I have to do this?
Now you're killing my vibe. I'm feeling very
I
low.
say anything and they talk about vibe. What am I supposed to do?
Anvita, I'll send you an email.
I don't have my laptop with me now.
Everything is a problem.
You guys don't know how to organize only.
Anvita, you're doubting us. We worked till 8.
The job done to start this session.
We did what Girish said. Where is this?
While all these three are arguing, let me start the session. Hi everyone, hope you had fun watching our panelists play out their everyday work struggles. Although a bit extreme, but just for fun, we tried this. So today we are here at this session, how to create a next-gen workplace, values, voice, and velocity. As a nation, we have come a long way, and we have a long way to go. We have a dream of becoming a Viksit Bharat, and that dream itself is huge, and the time is short. Over the course of the event, you will hear about many new things and learn a lot from this 2-day session. You will specifically hear about, not just during the day and in other sessions, but you will hear about creating financial instruments to unlock additional capital that is required to achieve the SDG goals. But today we are talking about how do we create a next-gen workplace that can unleash human capital. As we also heard in the morning plenary, that human capital is the core to achieving all these goals. So today we are here in front of you to discuss some of the things that we think is core to our sector, that is our workforce and the workplace. Because we believe that if we empower, include, sorry, I have cough because it has been raining in Mumbai and somehow we made it here. So first of all, huge round of applause to all the Mumbai guys who have made it to Delhi, and our fellow panelists also coming from different cities. So according to a recent report published by BCG and Snapchat in 2024, Gen Z will make up to half of our workforce. And as a country, we are one of the youngest country with one of the youngest and most diverse workforce. So it's very important for all of us, not just the social sector, but in general, the whole country as such, to create a vibrant workforce as well as create a very open and inclusive workplace that can not only include, empower, but also unleash our human potential that will help us to achieve the collective goals. As part of the report, it is also seen and mentioned that close to 90% of the Gen Z see purpose-driven work as something which is non-negotiable to them. Compared to other generation where we see stability, Gen Z is more concerned about purpose-driven workplace. 86% of the Gen Z feels they want on-the-job training, while other generations might settle for lesser number of days invested in training them. An equal number of Gen Z also feel their mental health and well-being comes in the top priority for them alongside their work. So there are various equations that needs to be taken care of while creating the next gen workplaces. So we will hear from our panelists. You have seen them play the skit, and now we'll hear from them how various values and these equations play out at their workplace. So I will take my seat now. So who do you want me to start with? Gen Z or Gen X? Gen Z, okay, great. So my first question to Anvita would be, what are some of the tight ropes that you have to walk at your workplace, and how do you manage that?
Thank you, Aman. So I think something that I struggle with every day is how do I protect my freedom and be able to take decisions on my own while also showing that I am taking accountability for my work, especially because then accountability is seen as, okay, are you meeting a certain deadline, or how many reports have you done? Whereas for me, it's about how much ownership am I taking? Am I thinking about the work? Am I being creative and trying to do something new? So that's something that I am trying to learning to navigate at my workplace.
What about you, Malavika?
I think for me, as the millennial at the workplace, one of the things is the flip side of what Anvita just said, right? So should I do it on my own, or should I get Anvita to do it? And how do I balance that? But another really real tightrope is, how do you sort of maintain legacy that an organization holds? Because I have also worked very closely with the founders and who happen to be Gen X. So how do you take that legacy along with driving new innovations at the workspace that the younger people who are joining the organization are interested in, right? So I represent an organization called Pravah, which is 30 years old, and we're a youth development organization. There is a legacy that Pravah holds in the sector, but there is a Pravah that is evolving with every young person who is joining the organization, right? So how do you hold that balance? That Pravah is what it is for the new person walking in, but it is also what it's always stood for through legacy. So that would be my tightrope walk, which I live
I think a lot of the people in the audience as well as me would relate to you, because I also work for an organization which is 100+ year old, and to address some of the pressing issues that are emerging in the country, like whether it is mental health, AI, digital bullying. It takes a lot of effort to convince people that, okay, on one hand we have to do traditional CSR, on the other hand we have to take care of the modern needs. So I truly relate with what you just said. Girish, what do you think you would like to share with the audience, what your tightrope is?
So I think as an owner, as an employer, On Purpose is a service provider to the social sector. We provide communication services, and we are bootstrapped and we are dependent on our clients to pay us so that we can pay the teams. I think the tightrope that we need to walk is how far can we push the team to perform at their very best without completely breaking them. So, and the pressure comes from the fact that we bill for our time, and if a job takes more time than it should, that means we're not going to be able to make the kind of money that's required to pay the team with the ambitions that they also have. I think my learning from being an employee is that the newer generations, while they want purposeful work, they also want to be paid very competitively. And for us, it's really important not to be seen as a soft organization. I think I like what Ravi sort of always says, that we want to be seen as laptop walas, not jhola walas, which also means that we have to be extremely competitive and we've got to deliver results. So that results focus can only come if we are also able to shape the team into a high performing team. And how much of that is possible within the time that's available to get the job done, I think is the tightrope that we walk every day.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I see a lot of conflicts in values, and I think that's like a superhero movie we see where the main character goes through a conflict situation, and that actually results in character building. So here also, I hope that you can see it positively as a character building exercise. But to continue on this, according to you, what does your model next gen workplace look like? And we'll come to how to create that at a later part. But according to you, what does your model next gen workplace looks like? Anvita.
Okay. So, I think for me, an ideal workplace would be a place where I'm able to take ownership of the work that I'm able to do. And I have that space to experiment, and at the same time, I have the agency to go up and ask someone for support. But then, and it's a balance, because I wouldn't want for my seniors to tell me everything that needs to be done. I want to figure that out on my own, and where I'm struggling with things, that is where I would seek that support and the mentorship from my seniors. That's the kind of, and I think that automatically then for me brings in a lot of trust on myself, and showing that, hey, we kind of value the space that you have in this organization, and we value the way you work and the way you approach your work. And so that would be an ideal situation for me.
And suppose Girish is your boss, and like he mentioned, he wants to come across as a very serious organization, mission driven, purpose driven, and impact driven. So, how would you manage in that situation?
So I think the purpose drive has never been in question, because especially for me and for, I think, on behalf of my generation, we are in the sector with very little experience at a young age, and so we've kind of made that choice to be here. So that purpose is never in question. But what we value with that purpose is the flexibility to maintain balance, look at overall well-being, and look at all aspects of our life, not just our work, but look at work, look at our health, look at our social relationships, and all of those things. So I think when Girish talks about being purpose-driven, I also would want to be in the same space and be equally purpose-driven and take equal ownership of that work, just that I might do it in a different way.
That's great. So, Malavika, would you like to add on what she has just mentioned?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, a model workspace would be actually a space where we talk about these tightropes, right? Because I think a lot of times these tightropes are felt, we all know they exist. In fact, when we were also preparing for this panel, we were also talking a lot amongst the three of us, right? And that brought out so much of what value are you coming from, what value am I coming from, how is this really, you know, manifesting in our actions. So I think for me, a model workspace would also be a space that while the task is being done and work is happening and there are timelines and that is reality. So a lot of what Girish said is reality, and I am a fundraiser, so of course these realities exist. But is the culture of the organization also sort of moving towards picking up some of these conversations and picking up some of these issues, not when a disaster comes up, but as a part of the culture? So how can we actually have these intergenerational talks and pick up some of these things? Because at the end of the day, everyone has to work with each other, right? Most of our organizations have multiple generations in that one compact workspace. There are those pressures. So how do we cope? So for me, I think it would be about building space for these conversations within the organizational culture. And I think that for me would work.
I think that's very important. If we provide a platform to at least talk about this or listen, if not actually solve it fully 100%, but if the generations, all the generations know that there's a platform where we can bring it informally, that okay, this is what is expected out of you, or this is what my tightrope is, this is the equation I am trying to strike a balance on. So recently we also had a similar meeting in the office where we have targets, like strict targets. You are a fundraiser, we are a donor, so we have targets where we have to spend money in a fair and transparent manner across each state of the country. So often we face challenge in finding the right NGO, and they have very strict deadlines. So we have these meetings where we call different vertical heads, and our MD, CEO, CFO, myself, we all sit and we take updates. So usually these meetings are like, okay, Anvita, how many proposals you have in the pipeline? When is your proposal coming? When will you submit your recommendation and all that? And sometimes it gets very stressful. And after the meeting, the manager will go out and take reporting from all the project officers why it is getting delayed, while the NGO may not have sent it, or maybe a cause like mental health will need a lot of study on the part of a donor, right, to put up a recommendation. So after the meeting, somehow the meeting ended in 1 hour. After the meeting, somehow we ended up talking about what you were just saying, that okay, while we understand the timelines and we understand the pressure, but we have limited number of people, and the kind of work that we have to understand ourselves, then ask questions from the NGO, then present to you, then you will understand, you will ask questions, then we go back to the NGO. Sometimes the NGO makes fun of us. So a lot of such equations are there on the donor side also. So we actually finished the first meeting, the official agenda, in 1 hour, and this meeting went on for 2 hours only about discussion. So that was a very positive thing that happened recently at our organization. And as a result of that, we also decided that we'll not just have a team dinner, we'll have a team heads dinner with the management, so that we can at least share our tightrope, that how do we manage expectation from Gen Z, and the team heads are mostly millennials and then Gen X. So how do we kind of manage that? So I think what you mentioned is very deep and very important, and I am sure the audience must be finding it interesting. At least give some space for bringing such conversation, if not solving it immediately. Girish, what would you like to add? How does your model next gen workplace look like, and what would you want to design it to look like?
Um, it's a tough space. I mean, the industry that we work in and operate in is tough, and I recognize that. It sometimes feels like you're in a pressure cooker because everything is sort of, has to happen at the same time. I think what we're sort of getting by with is making space for conversation. There's one initiative that I'm very proud that we have it On Purpose. It's called On Purpose Deliberates, and it's actually the idea of the team, and it's run by the team, and they set up these hour-long sort of conversations across the company, which is hosted by them. And they always have a theme around it, and then I think in all the conversations we have in the company, it is this space that actually gets the most response. from the team members in terms of actually getting people to speak up and share what they're thinking and feeling. And I often find myself also challenged in these sessions to sort of not be the boss, but actually be a participant with the team, so that it's really a question of everybody just sharing what they're thinking and feeling. And it's not about finding a solution. Often there is no solution, but it's just giving people a chance to voice what they're thinking. Other than this, we also have feedback loops. I think we have very regular feedback loops in the company. These are structured. Some of them are AI-driven. Some of them are more informal. But on a quarterly basis, the feedback comes in anonymously. And some of it is very brutal. And then some of it you can actually tell who said it, but then we pretend like we don't. But you know, it's I'd rather sort of have it out of them, even if it has to come through this anonymous survey, because then at least we get a sort of pulse check of how people are thinking and feeling. And then the third thing I would say that maybe is working, maybe will go against us, we don't know. But I think we're very radically transparent about everything, including the financials. And if we're in a tight spot, we'll tell everybody that, hey, this is what the company is looking like right now. These are what the numbers are looking like, and this is what the next quarter is looking like. And this is where our gap is. And guess what, guys? While we did really well this time, right now we're not. It's not looking good. We need to buck up. And maybe in that radical transparency, I feel like maybe there is more of an alignment behind, okay, let's get behind, you know, what the company needs to do. But I don't know is the answer. I don't know if that's going to come and bite us sometime later.
What's the most brutal feedback you have received? Anvita is laughing. Next question is to her. What's the most brutal feedback you have given?
Yeah, why don't you start with that, Malavika?
Please.
What?
Malavika.
Anvita, he's asking Anvita what's the most brutal feedback you've given?
No, you tell us now. They both have passed it to you.
Given to whom?
Given to anyone.
I don't know, yeah.
Usually we millennials are like,
We
ho
are the
jayega,
sandwich.
we'll give
We
our
are the
best.
sandwich generation.
Yeah, and I love Gen Zs because in my office also and in a lot of the partners' office that we work with, usually when something comes up where the deadline is like 1 day or 2 days, especially during COVID, and we are like very hardworking and very professional, all of us are, but we can't open our mouth.
When you're saying
Right.
we, you mean millennials?
Everyone.
Everyone.
We are all professionals, but we'll come to that later. But when it comes to strict deadlines, we are very kind and polite, and we are like, yes, we'll give our best and do it. Let's get on a call and let's get it done. And then we'll really struggle, you know, with our lives and even last breath, and somehow manage to get it done. Maybe not within the deadline. But when it comes to Gen Z, why I said I love Gen Z, because they are in our team, right? So whenever such, situations arise, they are like, nahi ho payega. Not possible, impossible. First, we'll need 6 hours to get the proposal, or we'll need 5 hours to plan this. So it won't happen, it's not practical, let's not waste our 1 day on it. Let's shift the deadline. And they will tell this feedback directly to the management. And then we are very happy. We are like, acha hua bol diya. So that way they are not brutal. I think they are honest and they are practical. And if we have a positive mindset and positive outlook, so we all as a team can work it out. And I think that way, in most of our assignments, we have delivered very high quality work. Compared to not having a Gen Z in our team, because then we'll just compromise on the quality and get the job done. So I think such feedbacks I have received from my team members when I used to have a very big team, and our deadlines used to be like midnight. We have to put a proposal next day. The COVID, you can say, oxygen plant will be sanctioned and shipped and all that. So this person would say, how will we put up the proposal if there are no quotations? So I'm like, that's true. So
I
then
think, I'd just like to add to that and also just touch upon what Girish was talking about in terms of radical transparency. I think now when you said that example, I can remember instances where I have also straight up said, like, this is just too much workload, we can't manage, like, nahi ho payega. But where I think that the thought process comes from is that we look at multiple things as a priority and then look at it, one particular thing, what is in that moment what is absolutely urgent, but we are not ready to do that at unreasonable costs, I would say. So so I think like, for example, the hustle culture, which was very glorified like when I was like much younger, when I was like when I was in school and early schooling and all, that's not something that a lot of people today of my age group relate to at all. So like we want to work hard. We are not afraid of putting in the number of the effort, but then not at the cost of our health, not at the cost of basic well-being. And that is something that we also want to see in everybody around us. So it's not just in the younger people, but also then in our seniors and in our leadership, is that, you know, we want to see them also like live a balanced life and have other aspects, so that then they're able to give that time and energy to when they come into the workplace, and they don't come into the workplace very tired or very stressed or burdened, right? And to respond to Girish, I think personal example, some of the best teams that I've worked in and where I felt super connected to the people is where people who are my seniors have come in with that radical honesty and said that, hey, we don't know what is happening, we don't have a solution, or like, or if I'm challenging someone, they say, okay, challenge me, but these are the 4 different constraints that you are maybe not, that you can't see, but these are the 4 real constraints that I'm working under. So let us figure something out together. And that immediately for me shifts the power dynamics, where then I'm not being told what to do, but I'm being said, okay, fine, let's do something together. And let me hear you out, and then let's debate about, okay, is this going to work, is this not going to work, and go forward from there. And so I think that is something that kind of radical honesty or transparency when we don't know, or when like there's no solution and everybody just has to figure it out. That's usually a nice way to like build that trust also.
Yeah. So we were talking about professionalism. So all generations have different understanding or definition of professionalism. So how would you define professionalism at workplace?
Yeah, and I think just taking from there, I think one of the points of struggle or friction comes with how each generation defines professionalism, right? Like I think for millennials, and I mean there's a very broad range, right, of millennials, so I don't speak for everyone, but largely I think we are we look at a lot of the adapting and a lot of the building out the flexibility part, right, because we are in between this. So somewhere, you know, how do we look at that collaboration to happen? How do we get both, you know, how do we get everyone together? How do we build in that flexibility? Look at changing, evolving, adapting. I think that's something that we have as millennials, and also bringing in a sort of balance. I think that is something that I would look at as a professionalism. Also, I think somewhere really looking at integrity and intent, because I think that for each generation, I think that intent and integrity, if that is intact, we can figure out a way to manage the rest, right? But I think for me, being professional is to have that integrity and intent also.
Yeah, I think intent and integrity will hold true for all generation. Girish, what would you like to add? How would you define professionalism for you or at your workplace?
So I think what's really important for organizations to stand out today is, you know, to have a very clear sort of sense of what you stand for. And I think where there can be flexibility is if everybody doesn't necessarily align with that, that's okay. We don't need you to, but if you bring a professional skill set that can make the company stronger, that's okay. What should be sort of non-negotiable from the organization's point of view is clarity in terms of what is your role and what are our expectations of you. And what we expect back in return is proactive communication. So what do we mean by proactive communication? It's basically, if you've said you're going to do something and it's going to happen by a certain time, if you need more time, you need to ask for it before the timeline passes. we go through this endless, sort of rounds of chasing within the organization that I feel just drains everybody's energy and effort. And the second thing is, if you feel like you need more help and support, then ask for it, rather than sort of keeping it inside and not delivering to your best.
Yeah, I think as a founder or as a CEO, we can totally understand what would be the priorities at your level. But maybe we can also look at setting practical timelines. Like I was just mentioning how Gen Z are pretty brutal with their feedback. Maybe we'll have to look at how much time is required from a certain, you can say, technical skill set. For me, writing a particular memo might need half an hour. But in my team, I have a Gen Z, so I would let her, like how you mentioned that should I do it or should they do it? So I let her do it in 1 hour. But that way I know what is the practical deadline because she is taking 1 hour or somebody else has taken 1 hour before. So maybe the deadline also needs to be designed in a way or decided in a way that people can deliver irrespective of their skill set. And maybe there is a training system or there are SOPs and frameworks. Like when we write a proposal, so today a proposal will come on healthcare, so we have outcome metrics. Something will come on education, so we have outcome metrics for education. But if something comes in between, which will have both the focus areas in one project, so it is very difficult for either of the teams to collaborate and work it out, or maybe the NGO itself is not qualified enough to look at qualitative outcomes. So such proposals or such initiatives take a longer time in debating and designing the entire project. So in such cases, we have fixed formats, as in we try to give them as much as library to refer to that, okay, in the past, this is what we have done, this is how you can take some of the inspirations. And we also know that an ideal proposal takes, say, a 1 month to 2 month window. But if the proposal is very unique, it might take 3 months. If the proposal is in research, innovation, incubation, some modern themes, so it can take as long as 6 months also. So at the management level also, if there is some practical expectations, then people will do quality work, and then we can prioritize other things as well, that you can do some of the traditional work, some of the new initiatives, or some of the routine work as well. So like that we also divide. And I always kind of try to tell my team members that certain things you have to do it for the salary, right? There you don't have to put a lot of your brain, right? This has to be done, this has to be done, you will get the salary. Now you do, say, 50% of the work for your own personal growth, that I'm very passionate about, say, mental health, or I'm very passionate about socio-economic well-being. So you read about it, and that proposal will anyway take 3 months. So you have time till 3 months to work on that. So like that, we try to keep our teams happy, involved, and also they get the salary, right? Because for them also that's the priority. So coming to Anvita, how do you define professionalism?
I think the way I look at professionalism is that I take ownership of the outcomes of my work, but then I want the freedom to do it in any way. So like, for example, maybe there would be a process that has been established in the organization which worked for the people in the organization at that point of time who were establishing that process. When I come into my workplace, that process may or may not work for me at an individual level. So I would want to have the agency to sort of change that process and see how things work for me. But at the same time also, like, I understand that certain things need to be delivered, or work, when there is work, then work needs to get done. So have that trust that, hey, I will get my work done, but then also just give me the freedom to do it the way that is suitable to me, and even if that is deviating from the process that exists in me, currently, which may have worked or which may or may not work for me.
So I think certain processes may be allowed to be deviated from, but broadly, like if I take Pravah's example, they would have a standard, you can say, theory of change. They would have a standard philosophy that this is how we do things. So that time it might be difficult for them to let you have a very, you can say, a free hand, but within that broad framework, they might be able to give a free hand or freedom of expression or freedom of thought to you. But broadly, in many organizations that I have seen, they have standard processes. Broadly, not like stepwise, but broadly, this is how we expect things to be done. And I think Girish will also agree to that. because he is leading an organization, so he would also have some standard processes, standard quality metrics on which he would expect his or her employee to deliver, right? So there is a fine line between giving autonomy in certain creative aspect of the work, but on the compliance side or on the documentation side or on the delivery side, certain things might be non-negotiable for the founder or for the CEO. So there, I think Gen Z will have to, strike a balance that okay, what I am doing for the job, and again what I am doing for my personal growth and purpose. So
But I think here,
yeah.
Why don't you go on?
yeah, I think here I'd just like to add that is when you're looking at work, of course. But if you're looking at the ownership for the organization, right, the organization is also made up of people who are a part of the organization today. And so therefore they have to be a part of building or contributing to what the organization stands for today. And within that, there can be a lot of ownership taken by even the youngest person in the organization. Sure. And we have in Pravah created those processes that allow for that leadership to be taken on or that ownership to be shown by the youngest person, because eventually if you look at succession of leadership in an organization, one will only stay if they also see their own growth trajectory within the organization. So even in the modern, like the current next gen workspace, attrition is high. People are looking at growth as I reach a certain level and then I know I need to switch to a new organization for my growth, right? But how do you allow for your organization to offer that culture and that space that a person who is in this Gen Z space right now can also see that career trajectory or that leadership growth within the organization for themselves? And I think in that there's a lot of role of opening up decision making and opening up ownership kind of spaces for everyone in the organization.
So we can come back to this, because my next question is on how do we create process and system that can, enable all this that we just spoke about. Girish, you were saying something.
Yes, just very quickly, I think, when we were a smaller organization, it was easier to give people freedom to do things the way they wanted as long as you got a quality outcome. But as we're scaling, we're seeing that, it's really important to follow the process, because that's the only way you can also enable more people to do similar work within, a faster turnaround time versus everybody doing it their own way. Then suddenly you become very people dependent, whereas what you want to do is establish process so that even if people come and go, the process is what sort of keeps the organization going.
Yeah, so like Malavika was mentioning in the beginning, legacy versus innovation. So then innovation will die, so we'll have to create a fine line between process and then create a fine line for innovation, or create a room for innovation. Maybe a significant portion of our efforts of funding or time can be attuned to supporting innovation and new practices, and also building leadership for the new generation. Because when we talk about capacity building of non-profits, leadership planning, leadership development is one of the core bottleneck faced by a lot of our partners and at the sector level as well. So I think Gen Z are the new hope for us. They can save the world, they can save the organizations if we can groom them, nurture them, and empower them. So we move on to the next section. What are some of the best practices that you have worked on, or that has worked in your organization, or that has been working in other organizations you are aware of, so that we can share with the audience? So we can start with Anvita.
Okay, thanks, Aman. No pressure at all that we'll change the world. But I think when I talk about best practices, one thing that comes to mind is from when I was a volunteer, actually. So not even an employee, so I was not even getting paid. But as a volunteer with an organization, we were a team of, we were a team of 20 people, and it was just COVID. COVID had just started, so this was March of 2020. And everybody was equally confused, but in that confusion, we were given that space to sort of take ownership for the outcomes. So we were a team that was managing all the operations in a city. So we were given the space to take outcomes of, okay, fine, this is like, what are your goals for the city? and what do you want to do and how are you going to achieve them. It's like completely driven by us as the team. And we were all at that point a team of around, I think on average 19 to 20-year-olds. And what happened in the process is we were forced to like not just create a vision for our city, but also think about very practical ways of how are we going to achieve that vision. And then we would go back with like, hey, we'd come up with a plan and we'd say, okay, I need X amount of funding and I need so many volunteers and I need Y resources. And suddenly we'd say, okay, fine, there is no resources, there is no money to work with this. So what will we do? And then the constraint is placed on us that, okay, you don't have money. But we were not told, okay, but then cut short on this goal or cut short on that. We then debated amongst ourselves and say, okay, fine, you know what, let's not do these 10 things, let's do only 3 things instead. And what I saw and what I take back from that team even today is so much ownership and so much of drive to just get it done. Because somewhere we are also stubborn people. We are all very stubborn. So it's like, okay, now that we have said that we will do it, we will do it. Because, and it was very, very important that we had to say that we will do it. Had anybody else come and told us that, okay, you need to get this much done, I don't think we would have had the same amount of drive. Not even close to that. But the fact that we said, no, we are going to do this, and we pushed ourselves to the point where we achieved our outcomes and we overachieved a little bit on some of our targets. So that is something that I've seen has worked very well. Just like letting us build the plan and build the goals, and not just being given a goal and then say, okay, fine, now you have to achieve it. Yeah.
So that's a very interesting example. Now, for people like us, we'll have to think, how do we inspire the next generation to think they are in charge of the program, or they are co-owners, not just doing a job. I'm sure you guys think about your job being a purpose-driven job. But how do we, bring you on board as co-owners of our, collective effort? So I think that way we can have 200% result from you, and that would have a lot of profits for Girish, and then he will be able to keep his financial statements healthy. So Girish, what are some of the best practices that you would like to share?
So 3 things. I think one is create safe space for conversation. Second is have multiple feedback loops. And the third one, I think, is role modeling behaviors. And, as Malavika has sort of expressed multiple times on this panel, the millennials are the sandwich generation. And typically, we're very hard on them because we've worked very closely with them for so many years, and we feel like it's now your turn to train the next generation, which is the Gen Zs. So role modeling of behaviors from, I guess, first from Gen X, then from millennials, and then hopefully Gen Zs will pass it on to whoever's next. What is it, Alpha?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting strategy. Malavika, what would you like to share from your experience? And you have worked with a lot of other organizations as well.
Yeah,
So
I think 2 things that I've seen work. One is, consistency in holding a process. So we do this one process at Pravah, which we call it like a seed, soil and air model, but basically it's like seed is like the organizational action group that takes on what are the issues that need to be addressed within the organization. It could be how do we look at organizational timings, it could be who is looking at the gray spaces in the organization that nobody's eye is on, it could be how are we viewed externally, anything that people want to pick up, but it's like an open space for decision making and action to come from anyone in the organization, and for people to get mentored through that process. But the beauty, I would say, is the consistency. So we do it once every month, and I think that just pushes everyone to pick up these issues, to also look at what else is happening besides work, to also take on ownership for some of these actions. So I think the consistency in these processes is important. So it can't be just one thing in 6 months, and that has worked. And I think the other piece would be how do you invest in supervision? So, like, Girish was saying, role modeling, but how do you actually do leadership building within the organization? How do you invest in people beyond just what they serve for the organization? Because then they take you everywhere, right? So, there may be people, and I've met so many of them today here, who are no longer in Pravah, but it's not about Pravah. It's about the change that they're making wherever they go, and how it is like it's all very collaborative in terms of they know what we intend to do, and they do think of us, right? So how are you nurturing leaders in your organization and externally? Because I think that leaders don't just get created. It requires time and investment. It requires coaching, mentoring, and like you gave that example that I know if I can do it in 5 minutes, but I choose to work with someone and coach them to be able to do it in an hour, so that in the next 3 months they can also do it in 5 minutes, right? So how do you also train for that or build leadership? So I think those would be my two important
I think that's a very smart
processes.
move. It's a cost-cutting measure also, because a lot of things you are getting done from the Gen Z and your other colleagues at work. Because ideally you would hire a consultant, help us with our image building, help us with our website, help us with our social media, and if we allow people to look into areas beyond their normal world, they can be very creative. Like, we have people with different skill sets. Somebody is into art, somebody is into website design, and when we allow them to express themselves in areas which they are not responsible for, you find them they are extra smart in that area, right? So that way the other person also feels involved, as well as they are able to contribute in a creative way other than their routine mundane job, which they might not like, because some of them are not like so serious about their job, but due to getting involved in something which is like a volunteering, something which is like being part of various internal committees. At least at our level we have many committees, so some people excel in something which they are not part of, right? So I think that's a very smart strategy also, to save cost plus build leadership plus getting the work done plus involving people, creating team bonding. I think people with different skill sets must be working in these groups. So we'll move to our last part. What is that one norm that you would like to remove from the workplace? So you can be candid about that. We'll start with Girish.
I created all of them, so I don't know which one you want to remove.
So you can answer which one you would like to retain.
Ask for help.
Okay. Anvita, what would you like to remove? This can be in general, not related to your
I
workplace,
think
but in general.
process rigidity.
Process rigidity, cognitive rigidity. Malavika.
I think I would like to remove being available all the time.
Okay.
Like having some healthy boundaries would be good.
That feature should come in Teams,
Yeah.
because we can't turn it off. We are millennials.
Yeah,
Gen Z can turn it
I
off.
think I've learned. I think the Gen Zs in my team have taught me how to shut shop at 6.
One norm quickly which you would like to rethink, needs some rethinking.
Oh,
Yeah, you.
okay. So I think, yeah, just how can we take more ownership of the work, and where can we contribute to actually goal setting, and sort of even like hold a small part of the work, if, as much as we can. Yeah.
Girish, what about you?
So
Rethink.
I am going to be the caricatured version of Gen X here, but I think I feel like in some way we've lost our, the courage we had to really mentor and develop people into being the best versions of themselves, because now we're too scared to give feedback, because we're always walking on eggshells. We don't know who's going to say what on LinkedIn or what on Glassdoor, and it's suddenly we've become very politically correct. Whereas if I think about the best leadership and mentorship that I got and received, it was not polite. It was harsh. It was pushing me to be better than I thought I could. And I feel like maybe that's something we need to rethink, because at some level I feel like we've got their careers in our hands, and if we don't shape them, then I think they're going to drown in a sea of mediocrity.
Malavika, what would you like to add?
I'm scared of giving a mediocre answer after this. Because I have been shaped by that gen. So, no, I'm kidding. I think what to rethink about would be how we look at excellence, right? Like, I think that is excellence also taking into account what that does to the person? So, like, how are we looking at outcomes and how are we looking at excellence is something to be thought about, because I think currently as I communicate more and interact more with the next gen, I think they are looking at a more holistic way of looking at well-being, and I think that's also important and something to learn from.
So thank you everyone for the wonderful answers. Now we move towards the audience. We have some sheets with you, placed with you, where you can note down some of your takeaways. And if you have some questions for the panel members, we are here. We can take few questions. If we can pass around the mics. Anyone has any questions?
You have talked about rigidity. So, can you clarify with the practical terms? You have some certain 10 employees or so, and one of them is so rigid that he is able to upset the whole your project system. Then how to deal with that?
So I think when I talked about rigidity, I meant rigidity in terms of process, which is that to say that, okay, if we're doing something, we have to do it in this particular way only, which then may work for some people, but they may not work for others. So that is what I would want to change and say, okay, this is this process helps us achieve an outcome. But then if you can propose like an alternative way of achieving the same outcome, let's be open to that, and let's not impose that everybody needs to do this my way. Like they can do it their way as well.
It's a joint effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What we call about co-creating something, what she was speaking about, how they can be involved in goal setting, or what I was talking about, how we can set practical deadlines. So when we have each step of the process defined or designed in a manner which takes feedback from everyone irrespective of their role or seniority or juniority in the organization, then a lot of these conflicts can be solved, and you will not end up in such a situation where one person is rigid and then 9 others will be suffering from that one person. So I think it's all about how we design a next gen workplace which takes care of all these conflicts, all these designing elements of goal setting, targets, priorities, giving them freedom in designing their own day, how their day should look like. Because in at least my organization, we have a fixed calendar. This is how we'll operate the day, right? There will be a fixed meeting slots. Everything is, pre-decided. Whereas if a Gen Z is there, they will probably get bored, right? No, I want to read in the morning and then I will do the typing in the second half, right? So we'll have to give them freedom as long as there is the deadline of day end and not like in the morning. So that much understanding I think everybody has in terms of professionalism. Any other question from anyone?
There's one question.
Yeah, please.
In the plenary session today in the morning, there was emphasis on creating, competence, core, collaboration, and compassion. So what is your take? How can we create, compassionate workplaces?
So I think it can start with giving a platform, like we were talking about. There should be a place where people can come and talk first. That's when people will start understanding each other, that they are not competing with each other, or they are not pulling anyone down or pushing anyone up. It's part of their job, right? Everybody is delivering. If Girish is the head of the company, then it's his job to ensure it is profitable. Or if Anvita is joining a particular company, she has joined that company because she finds it purposeful and she has the right skill sets to do that job. So the owner should also trust her, so she will, as she herself mentioned, that she has exceeded targets in cases where she was the owner of that program. And as Malavika also mentioned, and even I echoed the same, that how do we create those places where we, you can say, nurture new leaders from our younger colleagues, and so that we have less workload, and our CEOs and MDs and owners like Girish are very happy that we are all getting along well. So maybe at your level you have to create that space where people get along well. There is a real collaboration within the team. Then you talk about collaboration with other organizations outside. There should be a common, alignment in terms of values and principles and goal setting. And I think most of the problems can be addressed there.
Hi, I had a question for Girish. Girish, just wanted to understand, because I'm a millennial and I have a Gen Z at home. I know how that works out. I just wanted to understand your perspective. I'm quite sure that intergenerational dynamics has been there for quite long, and it is not just between Gen Z versus millennial or Gen X versus millennial or whatever. There could have been dynamics with a generation before you as well in your workplace. So while you did glorify about the, hard ways of molding you, the previous generation that did to you, what were the things that you did not very well align with your previous generation? Just wanted to have a perspective on that. Thank you.
So, firstly I wanted to clarify, I also find this grouping very sort of strange, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the characteristics that we sort of associate with these different generations, you can actually see them in the same generation as well. It's just different people. So maybe there are lots of stereotypes about the generation that are worth sort of busting. Now, in terms of what I didn't appreciate about mine, it's really funny because actually somebody whom I really respect was in the audience earlier here today morning. She was one of my first bosses. And of course, I learned a lot because she was a no-nonsense person who didn't suffer any fools. And she always expected the very best. And that's how we were groomed to sort of work with her. If I think about something that I didn't appreciate, honestly, I may be biased. But the lens that I look at it through was, even if her feedback was harsh, it played a role. So I don't see anything that I wish they didn't do. I think I'm just grateful that they did actually spend time and, in giving me feedback, even if it was harsh. But better that way than ignoring me.
Okay.
We
My question is from Girish and Malavika. What is that one thing that you have learned from Gen Z, this generation, that one thing that you really appreciate that maybe this generation does it better?
Use AI. Malavika.
I think to look at other facets of my life beyond work and look at productivity differently. I think that they've challenged me on how I look at productivity.
This is for the whole panel. Everyone spoke about ownership at some level. Started with you, Anvita, Malavika, you touched upon it. Everyone talked about ownership. But everyone talked about it in a very different way. There's one aspect that's non-negotiable. It falls across. When you're taking something on and you're owning it, you're working as part of a team. The way you're operating, the way you're doing it, the way, your ownership also impacts how someone else is going to react, how someone else's day shapes up, their month shapes up, their job shapes up, right? If you're making their job easier or not. And a lot of that is personal. It comes to you, right? So how does ownership, in your definition, how does ownership within a team, how do you deal with that? And what sort of accounts for what?
So I think,
I can attempt.
yeah.
So I think something that I've learned and I'm trying to practice every day is there is a concept of individual ownership and your collective team ownership. And sometimes when a collective ownership is being built, I might have to let go of certain aspects of my individual ownership so that it is still sort of talking to the collective ownership at all. But that's still, I wouldn't want to let go to an extent where I don't relate to what is the team ownership. So I would want to, so if not 100%, but I'd want like say 70-80%, and then that 70-80 of the team, each individual's 70-80 together makes like 100 or a beyond 100%. That's something that, that's the way I view ownership. I wouldn't put it as black and white as that, but somewhere yes, little similar to that.
So we can take one last question and then we'll wrap.
Thanks. My question is more to Anvita. Also, because I relate some of bit with the millennial generation also, and some of bit with Gen Z as well, because I'm slightly in the cusp in between. But my question is more about how do you perceive power in a workspace, and what is, I mean, I think you touched upon it in one of your conversations where you talked about taking feedback and giving feedback, but I think I really want to understand what really works and what really works when you want to be mentored. What is the need when someone is mentoring you?
Okay.
Hope the question's clear. Okay.
I think I can answer for me personally. What works for me is if there's a decision that I'm expected to abide by, then it helps me to get on board when I know the rationale behind it. So then, and I ask why very directly, ki why are we doing this or why not this? If you're saying no to something, why not? And that comes off as a little bit like rude sometimes, but for me it really helps to then understand and empathize with whoever is taking the decision. That's one thing that works for me. The other thing that really works for me is allowing me to be part of the process. And then when I am making a mistake, to say, okay, how could I have, what are ways I can course correct without actually dwelling on the mistake completely. Like, so maybe I did something wrong. I don't like being scolded for it because I already feel very guilty about the fact that I've done the mistake. But to say, how can I avoid this in the future? Or who are the support systems that I have that I can fall back in? Or how do I, what are better ways to assess what risks I will, that I might encounter when I'm taking a certain decision? For me, not, so I want to clarify, not being told that this is the risk, because then I might not understand it. But to say, how do I think through and identify the risks? That is the kind of mentorship that would work really well for me. But again, that's a personal thing. Everybody would have different views on that.
So thank you. No more questions. We can catch up in the break time. All the panel members are here only. So we can continue with the Q&A in the break as well. So thank you to all the panel members for sharing your candid responses. And as a moderator, even I learned a lot, because I personally believe that human capital or workforce or workplaces will be the core to our sector and core to our journey in achieving all the SDGs. And whatever I have achieved in the last 10 years, I think I can achieve it in 1 year if I have my original team back. But even my organization or me as a person was not able to retain all the leaders that we created at our organization. And that's not simple to retain them just by giving them a promotion or a hike. I think values, velocity, and voice matters a lot. And that's why we chose this topic out of all the different, themes of the day. And I think you have learned a lot as well. And I hope you will implement some of the learnings back in your organization, and we can create, few next-gen workplaces very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for those insightful discussions. I now request Trisha Verma, Director Global Knowledge Hub ISDM, to felicitate all our panelists as a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Also, delegates, I hope you had as much fun enjoying the session as much as Girish, Malavika, Anvita, Aman, Preeti, and Bhavna had while curating the session. Trisha, please. Requesting all to take a photo, please.